Okay, so you know how we love a good deep dive, right? Well, today we're tackling one that's a little different, even for us. We're talking about Enneagram Type 5s. And get this, we're using the Shawshank Redemption to help us understand them better.
Fascinating choice. I mean, it's not every day you connect a prison drama to personality types. I'm intrigued, I gotta admit.
Right. And the best part is, we have this awesome analysis that one of our listeners sent in, all about how the main character, Andy Dufresne, is like the ultimate Type 5, especially the conservation subtype. But before we jump into all that, let's do a quick recap on Type 5s in general.
Makes sense. Refresh our memories.
Okay, so the listener's material had this phrase that really stuck with me. They called Type 5s observers in the heights. You know that feeling of watching everything happening around you from a distance?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like you're separate from it all somehow.
Exactly. And it's almost like there's this like invisible wall between you and everybody else.
That's a great way to put it, that invisible wall. And I think for type 5s, especially the conservation subtype, it's not so much about being intentionally distant, but more about creating a kind of self-sufficiency. Like the world's a lot to handle sometimes, So they set up these boundaries to manage their energy.
Right, they build those walls to protect that energy. And that's where this whole idea of a refuge comes in,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, obviously prison is nobody's idea of a refuge.
Yeah, not exactly a relaxing vacation spot.
But the expert points out all these ways that Andy actually manages to create these little pockets of refuge, even inside prison.
And that's the thing about refuges. It's not always about a physical space, although a lot of type 5s are really deliberate about their environment. But it's more about this mental state. It's about minimizing everything coming at you from the outside so you can maximize what's going on inside. Thinking, processing, just recharging those batteries. And this is what I find so cool about Shawshank Redemption. You've got Andy stuck in this like seriously intense environment, right? But you start noticing these little type 5 things he does.
Totally. Like right off the bat, he doesn't say a word for, was it like a month after he gets to
What is
Shawshank?
a month? Most people would be like, okay, who's who here? How do I survive this place? But Andy's not most people.
No, he's in full-on observer mode, like an anthropologist dropped into a new culture or something.
Exactly. He's taking it all in, gathering data, figuring out the rules of this new world before he makes his move. It's very strategic, very type 5. Don't react, analyze.
And it's not just about laying low either.
Huh.
The analysis points out how he gets into collecting rocks, like
Um,
literally chipping away at the prison yard to find these little bits
that's
of,
beauty in a way, right?
yeah, like talk about unexpected hobbies. It's kind of poetic when you think about it.
It's totally a metaphor. Classic conservation subtype, finding something practical, something that resonates with them, even in a place like that. And those rocks, they even become like his own little currency later on.
Resourceful, which, speaking of, we got to talk about the chess set.
Oh man, that chess set, it's brilliant.
So good. On the one hand, it's just a game, a way for him to like use his brain, tune out the noise.
Right, that mental escape.
But the expert makes this point about how it's also like this metaphor for how Andy approaches the whole prison system.
100%.
He's playing chess and everyone else is like playing checkers.
It's that long game thinking, always 10 steps ahead, always planning. That detachment lets him see the big picture when no one else can. And that, I think, is how he pulls off that incredible escape.
Right. It's not just about being smart, it's about perspective. But you know what else is interesting? It's not just about outsmarting everyone either. There's this whole other side to it, and the expert brings up that scene with the opera music.
Ah, yeah, where he plays the music over the loudspeaker.
Exactly. And it kind of throws you off at first, right? Because we often think of type 5s as being like these super rational, almost unemotional types.
Yeah, they have that reputation.
But that scene, it shows how much emotion they're actually holding inside.
Totally. They're not cold, they just express it differently.
And with that one act of, I don't know, rebellion, beauty, he creates this moment where everyone in the prison yard is connected. It's like this little spark of humanity in this really dark place.
It's wild, right? Like usually when you think of a leader, you picture someone super outgoing, the life of the party. But Andy is the total opposite.
Quite strength, right.
It's a good reminder that leadership can be about strategy and observation, not just charisma.
Totally. And that takes us to this other interesting thing about type 5s, especially the conservation subtype. The
Yeah.
material you sent mentioned how they're not always the best at self-promotion, putting themselves out there,
Not exactly their comfort zone,
Right.
which I get, honestly.
Totally. And that can be tough, right? Like, how do you get your ideas heard if you're not the one shouting them from the rooftops? But then I was thinking, What if it's not a flaw, but just like their way of being authentic? I'm
Interesting.
not doing it for the applause.
Yeah.
It's about the work itself.
It's that quiet confidence. They let the results speak for themselves. And look at the examples from the analysis, right? Einstein completely changed how we understand the universe. And San Juan de la Cruz, this incredible poet and mystic, diving deep into the human spirit. They weren't chasing fame, they were just following their curiosity.
It's kind of humbling. It makes
Ugh.
you wonder how many other type fives are out there doing amazing things behind the scenes. And that's maybe the most powerful thing about Andy's story. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to make a difference.
For sure. And the expert, they have this quote at the end that really stuck with me. They said, type fives are like certain birds. You can put them in a cage, but you can never really trap their spirit.
Wow.
Deep, right? It's that idea that freedom isn't about where you are physically, it's about what's going on inside your head.
I love that. I thought we were just going to dissect a movie tonight, but this has really got me thinking about, like, my own life.
Mm.
What are the cages that I'm building for myself without even realizing it? Where am I holding back?
Man, that's the question, isn't it? What would happen if we all stopped holding back? And maybe, just maybe, by understanding these different personality types, it helps us see those cages a little more clearly, gives
Mm.
us the tools to break free, you know?
I'm telling you, every time we do one of these deep dives,
Yeah.
I'm blown away. Never would have thought a prison movie would have so much wisdom packed into it. Uh, and for anyone listening who wants to really go down the rabbit hole, the expert also mentioned an analysis on Elliot from Mr. Robot. Apparently, he's like peak type 5.
Ooh, that's going on my list.
Right. All right, deep divers, that's it for this one. Remember, a little knowledge goes a long way, and sometimes the greatest escape is the one we make from our own limitations. See you next time.